Hello students, my name is Niyati Saeed and thanks for watching Edupedia word videos. My topic for the presentation is Anatomy of Dicot STEM students. In this section of the presentation, we will study about the internal morphology of Dicot STEM in the transverse section, because I have already taught you that for a better understanding of tissue organization of roots, stem and leaves, it is always convenient to study the transverse section of the mature zones of these organs, students. Okay, so let's see the transverse section of Dicot stem, that is TS of Dicot stem, students. We observe the transverse section of Dicot stem under microscope. Okay, so this is the transverse section of the Dicot stem. It has epidermis, hypodermis, cortex, endodermis, stele, Peri Cycle, medullary ray, pith and vascular bundle. Okay. Example of Dicot stem could be Helianthus anus, that is sunflower. Okay. The botanical name of sunflower is Helianthus anus, students. Okay. So this is the part 1, in which we will study about the epidermis, students. Okay, so the transverse section of a typical young dicotyledonous stem shows that epidermis is the outermost protective layer of the stem, students. Okay, so this is the outermost covering of the stem, and it is covered with a thin layer of cuticle. Okay, it may bear trichomes. Okay, these are trichomes. These projections are trichomes, students. And epidermis is represented by a single layer of compactly arranged barrel-shaped parenchyma cells. Can you see the intercellular spaces present between the cells of the epidermis? No, students. There is no intercellular space present between the cells of the epidermis. The cells, they are slightly thick-walled. The cell wall of these epidermis cells, they are slightly thick-walled. Epidermis, it shows the presence of numerous multicellular projections, which we call it as trichomes. So trichomes, they are your multicellular projections. They are unlike root hairs because they are unicellular, but these trichomes, they are multicellular projections. Okay. Externally, a thin transparent waxy covering is called as cuticle is there, which prevents the excess evaporation of water surrounds the epidermis. Okay, so thin layer of cuticle is there above it. Okay, so this is your epidermis, and it also contains numerous minute opening, which we call it as stomata, students. Okay, which are mainly involved in transpiration. And these are trichomes, right? And they possess the multicellular hair-like growths, which we call it as trichomes, students. And what is this, students? This blue line is indicating the cuticle, which is a waxy substance, students. Okay, so this is your cuticle. Okay, which is a thin, transparent, waxy covering. And what is the significance of the cuticle, students? It prevents excessive evaporation of water surrounds the epidermis. Okay. Now what is this? This red is your hypodermis. Okay. Hypodermis is a region that lies immediately below the epidermis. It is represented by a few layers of collenchymatous cells with angular thicknings. Okay, the cells, they are compactly arranged without or with intercellular spaces. Okay, hypodermis provides mechanical support and additional protection, students. So this is your hypodermis, and it consists of 3 to 5 layers of collenchymatous cells. Now what is this? This is cortex. Okay, what is this? This is cortex. They are made up of parenchymatous cells, students. So this is your cortex. Okay. Now what is this? This is your endodermis, students. First, I'll explain you about the cortex, this yellow ones. It is the major part of the stem, which is represented by several layers of loosely arranged parenchymatous cells. The intercellular spaces, they are prominent. Can you see the intercellular spaces between the cells of the cortex? Yes, this is the intercellular space. So you can say that intercellular space is prominent in cortex. Okay. Cortex is the major storage organ in the stem. This is the major storage organ. Okay. Now comes endodermis. Endodermis is the innermost layer of cortex, which is represented by compactly arranged barrel-shaped cells. Okay, so it is made up of barrel-shaped cells without any intercellular spaces. Can you see the intercellular spaces present between the cells of the endodermis? No, students. So there is no intercellular space present between the cells of the endodermis, and they are very much compactly arranged barrel-shaped cells. The endodermis is wavy in appearance. Okay, it is wavy in appearance, and the cells, they are richly deposited with starch grain. So you can say that it contains abundant of starch. Okay, and hence endodermis is commonly described as a starch sheet. Okay, it is commonly described as a starch sheet. Okay, this is what it is. Okay. Now let's see the second part of it. Okay. In this we will study about the vascular bundles, steel, Peri Cycle, okay, xylem, phloem, which we call it as vascular bundle, and cambium, pith rays, and medullary rays, students. Okay. So first we will study about the steel. The part of the stem inside of the cortex is known as stele, students. The stele consists of three general regions. First is Peri Cycle, second is vascular bundle, and third is pith. So this is your Peri Cycle, student. The region between the vascular bundles and the cortex is known as Peri Cycle. It is generally composed of parenchyma cells, but it is also seen that sclerenchyma cells are also there, but the sclerenchyma cells may be absent too. Okay, the sclerenchyma may occur as a separate patch or as a continuous ring in the outer part of the Peri Cycle that forms a sharp line of demarcation between stele and cortex. So what it is? This is Peri Cycle. Okay. In sunflower, it is multilayered, which we call it as hard bast. Okay. What we call it as hard bast. Okay. Which type of vascular bundle is seen in the Dicot stem? It is conjoined, collateral, and open type. Okay. Conjoined, collateral, and open. See, this is phloem. This is xylem, and when the cambium is present between the phloem and the xylem, then that is known as open type of vascular bundle. So see, this is your phloem, this is your xylem. To be more precise, it is metaxylem. And open, when the cambium is present between the phloem and xylem, then vascular bundle is called as open. See, and what are these? These are your protoxylem, students. Okay, what are these? These are your protoxylem. So you can say that Peri Cycle. Peri Cycle, what it is? It is a region between the vascular bundle. Okay, this is the region between the vascular bundle and cortex is known as Peri Cycle. It is generally composed of parenchyma and sclerenchyma cells, but the sclerenchyma cells may be absent. The sclerenchyma may occur as a separate patches or as a continuous ring in the outer part of the Peri Cycle that forms a sharp line of demarcation between the stele and the cortex. It is seen that the sclerenchyma cells in the Peri cycle, they are like other sclerenchyma cells in being long, thick-walled, dead cells which serves as strengthening material. Okay. Now come to the vascular bundle, that is phloem and xylem. The vascular bundle, as seen in cross section, they are arranged in the general form of broken ring. The vascular bundle consists of three parts. The nearest, the center of the stem contain thick-walled cells which we call it as xylem. Okay, they are thick-walled cells and which we call it as xylem. The peripheral portion of the bundle is composed of thin wall as in phloem. Okay, the xylem and a phloem, they are separated by cambium layer. So this is the cambium layer which is present between the phloem and the xylem. Okay, which is composed of meristematic cells. This cambium is composed of meristematic cells which keep on dividing. By division, the cambium layer increases the size of vascular bundle by forming xylem cells on the inner side and the phloem cells on the outer side. See, phloem cells on the outer side and xylem cells towards the inner side. Okay, students? In some stem, the bundles, they are separate and they run the length of the internode. In others, they are more or less united and they form a hollow cylinder in which medullary rays occur as radiating plates, which slight vertical extensions. Okay. Now come to the xylem element. This is your xylem, metaxylem and protoxylem. So the xylem, which is formed before the activity of cambium, has begun to produce xylem and phloem cells, which we call it as primary xylem. Okay, and it is composed of two parts. Which are those? The xylem formed first is nearest the center. Okay, this is the protoxylem which is formed first and it is nearest the center. The more peripheral part of the primary xylem is known as metaxylem. Okay, it is seen that they are 8 in number. They are arranged in the form of broken ring. Okay, and xylem is on the inner surface and phloem is on the outer surface, and xylem in the dicot stem is described as endark because the protoxylem is towards the inner side and the metaxylem is towards the outer side, students. Okay, so because it is in and it is out, xylem is endark. Okay, the remaining cells around it represents the ground tissue. So this green ones are your ground tissue, students. Okay, and these cells, that green ones, they are parenchymatous cells which is between the vascular bundles, students. Okay, and what it is medullary ray. It is found in between the vascular bundles and they are meant for the storage of food, students. Okay, and what it is pith. Pith is the innermost part of the stem which is formed by the group of loosely arranged parenchyma cells, and the intercellular spaces, they are prominent in pith, and the pith is also meant for the storage of food, students. Okay, so this is the central part of the stele which stores food. Now this is the dicot stem transverse section. This is epidermis. These are trichomes. Okay, as I told you that epidermis is the outermost covering of the stem, students. It is represented by a single layer of compactly arranged barrel-shaped parenchymatous cells, and intercellular spaces are absent in it. The cells, they are slightly thick-walled. Epidermis shows the presence of numerous multicellular projections which we call it as trichomes, students. Externally, a thin transparent waxy covering is called as cuticle, which prevents the excessive evaporation of the water surrounds the epidermis. Okay. Now what it is hypodermis. It is a region that lies immediately below the epidermis. Can you see that hypodermis is lying beneath the epidermis? It is represented by few layers of collenchyma cells with angular thickenings. The cells, they are compactly arranged without any intercellular spaces. Hypodermis, it provides mechanical support and additional support or additional protection to the dicot stem, students. Okay. Now what comes? This is cortex. Cortex, as I told you, that it is the major part of the stem, which is represented by several layers of loosely arranged parenchyma cells. And intercellular spaces, they are prominent in it, because you can see that there's intercellular spaces between the cells of the cortex. So yes, intercellular spaces are prominent, and cortex is the major storage organ in the stem, students. Now comes third layer, which is known as endodermis. Okay, so this is endodermis. It is the innermost layer of the cortex, which is represented by compactly arranged barrel-shaped cells without any intercellular spaces. The endodermis is wavy in appearance. Okay, can you see the waves? Yes, it is wavy in appearance. Okay. And the cells, they are richly deposited with starch grains, and hence the endodermis is commonly described as a starch sheet. Okay, what it is? See, this is the Peri Cycle. Peri Cycle is the outermost covering of the stele, students, which lies immediately below the endodermis. See, this is the endodermis, this red one, and this Peri Cycle is lying immediately below the endodermis. Okay, it is represented by few layers of compactly arranged sclerenchyma cells. Above each vascular bundle, the Peri Cycle, it forms a distinctive cap-like structure, which we call it as bundle cap, students. Okay. Now what it is? The blue ones, this is your phloem, okay, which is a vascular bundle, okay, which is a conductive material tube that helps in conduction of food from leaves to roots. Okay, the primary phloem of the dicotyledonous stem consists of three types of cells. First, sieve tube. Second is companion cell, and third is phloem parenchyma. The sieve tube consists of thin-walled, elongated cells. Okay, and the adjacent cells of the sieve tube, they are united by small holes in the cross wall. The areas on the wall of the sieve tube which contain such holes, they are called as sieve plates. Okay, and the mature sieve tubes, they do not contain any nuclei. And second is your companion cells. They are small cells which are attached to the sieve tubes. Okay, and the third is phloem parenchyma, whose structure is very much similar to that of other parenchyma cells. That's why these are known as phloem parenchyma. Okay, now comes the cambium. See, this is the cambium, which is a connecting link between the phloem and the xylem. See, this is the xylem. From here to here, this is xylem, and this is blue ones are your phloem, and this yellow ones are your cambium, students. There lies a layer of meristematic cells between the xylem and the phloem, which we call it as cambium, students. Okay, the cambium, it consists of single layer of cells which by division give rise to xylem cells, students, towards the center of the stem, and phloem cell towards the periphery. Okay, at first the cambium is confined to the bundles, but later the parenchyma cells of the pith rays, which lie between the edges of the cambium in the bundles, divide, and they form a layer of cambium which reaches across the pith ray and connect in the bundle, so that cambium becomes a continuous cylinder. Okay, now comes your metaxylem. Okay, and these are your protoxylem. Okay, this is how it is. And then this is the medullary ray, okay, which is meant for the storage of food, and this is pith. Pith, in a dicotyledonous plant, the center of the stem is composed of thin-walled parenchyma cells, and it is known as pith, students. So this is the pith, in which the cells are thin-walled and the cells are parenchymatous in nature. Okay, the cells, they have distinct intercellular spaces too, present in the pith. Okay, now what about the pith rays, students? The vascular bundles, they are separated from each other by a radial row of parenchyma cells, which we call it as pith rays. See, these are the pith rays. 1, 2, the green ones, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So 14 medullary rays are there. So the vascular bundles, they are separated from each other by the radial rows of parenchyma cells. These pith rays, they have parenchymatous cells. The pith ray cells, they are usually elongated in radial direction. They serve primarily for the conduction of food and water, radially in the stem or for the storage of food students. Okay. So the vascular bundles, they are arranged in the form of ring around a large central pith. Okay, can you see? Yes. The vascular bundle means xylem and phloem. To be more precise, metaxylem, protoxylem and phloem. These are the vascular bundles which are arranged in the form of ring. Yes, it is arranged in the form of ring separated by medullary rays around a central part which we call it as pith. So this was all about the dicotyledonous stem. In my next section of the presentation, we will study about the dorsiventral leaf. Okay, so till then, stay tuned and keep watching Edupedia word videos.